Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Hey Sunshine. I'm your host, Shani Timms, and today I am joined by Mia Mitchell. And Mia Mitchell is an astrologer, a Reiki and seichim master, and the founder of Saucy Moo. She's on a mission to support people through emotional, mental, and spiritual mentoring. And today I'm so excited to dive into all the things. Just to give you a little outline, we're going to be talking about astrology, birth charts, new moon and full moon rituals, moon placements, and Mia's COVID love story. So Mia, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Shani, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here too. And to set the backstory for everyone, I actually went through our messages on Facebook today, Mia, and 2018 we met at a sound healing field. Time has absolutely flown, but I've loved seeing your journey, and you've started off with your business of Saucy Moo, and you've just sort of built your toolkit in astrology and Reiki and seichim. So I'm so glad you're here today, and we're just going to dive into all the things.
Amazing. I can't wait.
So good. So I really love to open with a question about magic. And what is magic to you, Mia?
Oh, yes, I love this question so much. So magic to me it's just the little things. But it's not just witnessing the little things, it's feeling them. So it's like, like waking up in the morning and just like not just seeing the sunlight pouring through the window, but just feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, seeing my kids smile. And like, it's beautiful to witness and see that, but like the feeling that it gives me, it's like, that is magic, like hearing my partner's voice on the phone, it's just the little things for me. And it's just in the slowing down and being present. And just so having that gratitude for just life.
That's awesome.
It doesn't have to be anything massive. It can just be really little.
There's so much beauty in the small stuff, and like as you said, slowing down so we can actually witness it is the key part to that, because so often we rush through life and we miss those beautiful moments. So yeah, that's magic in itself. So thanks for sharing that, Mia. And before we fully dive in, so I feel like if anyone could pick that, so you're an emotional projector, is that right?
I am an emotional projector, yes. And I'm a Scorpio sun, I'm a Taurus rising, and I'm a Pisces moon. And I have a birth chart full of water placements. So I am a deeply, deeply emotional, intensely emotional feeling person.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I kind of want to start with like your story and how it sort of unfolded, the key sort of pivotal moments in your life that got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so really my story started like 7 or so years ago with the breakdown of my marriage. That really just set everything in motion because it was such a massive upheaval in my life. Suddenly I became a single mom of 2 young boys. I was unemployed. It's just, everything was just like, wow, this is life-changing. And at the time I was really freaked out and I was suffering really chronic anxiety and depression. But I just, like instantly when these changes kind of occurred, just this thought came into my head of, okay, this is actually creating space for you to become something you want to become, to like be the person you want to be. Like, you could sit around and be really sad and freaked out and what have you. And I did have those moments, of course, but also just having this opportunity of like, okay, I can really turn this around. And now I'm on my own. I can create a life for myself. So that's kind of how it started. And from there, it just, the universe just put things into my path. Like I kept seeing the number 911 and it freaked me out. And
what does that mean?
Why am I saying 911? Like I was thinking of like, 9/11 and eventually one day I thought, I'm just going to Google this. I need to find out why I keep saying this number everywhere. And 911 is basically the universe telling you like it's a new beginning, it's new beginnings, it's an opportunity, you're on the right path. So as soon as I saw that, I was just like, okay, I need to look more into this. And I just started the path from that. I started seeing energy healers. I started getting Reiki treatments for myself. I started using essential oils and crystals, and, just one thing led to another. And then it just evolved into me creating my own business of selling essential oils and crystals, and then becoming a Reiki healer, becoming a Reiki master, looking at other healing modalities like seichim, and then astrology is something I've always been super passionate about. Ever since I was a little girl, just been obsessed with my horoscopes, and it's something that's always kept me going throughout life. So that's kind of why the path has now led into like a deepening of astrology and all those things. So yeah, it's just the universe just has a way of,
It's so good. And those are those sort of like moments of synchronicity where it's like one thing leads to another, and it's kind of like you're shown the next step and the next step and the next step, and then hindsight allows you to see it as a full path that has sort of unfolded, which is your life. So I absolutely love that. And I have a confession, Mia. For a very spiritual woo-woo person, I'm actually not that up to date with astrology. So really, like, today is such a good chance for me to learn off you and our listeners too, just to all the things about the moon, birth charts, all of the things. So I thought a good place we could start is like new moon and full moon. Like, what do we need to be doing? Like for me, I feel a lot of emotions around the full moon. So are there certain sort of rituals or practices that we can be doing in our sort of day-to-day lives as well?
Yeah. So the moon is something I am super, super passionate about, and the phases of the moon and the cycle of the moon, because the moon in astrology represents our emotions. It represents our deep inner self. It's where we find our safety and our security within ourselves. So the moon is like so pivotal, and that's why during all the different phases of the moon you can feel so much, and especially with a full moon it can bring out intense emotions, because the full moon is a time where the moon is at its peak illumination. So it is literally highlighting everything to us, which is why during the full moon you can feel like you're going crazy, or dogs go crazy, or like people at hospitals are going crazy. Like
it just highlights everything.
It's like lunacy. The lunatics come out. So the moon does go through lots of different phases. The full moon is a time, like I said, it's the peak illumination, and so with a full moon, it's a time to kind of like reflect. It's highlighting and illuminating your life. It's illuminating the things you need to see, and it's kind of putting a light on your path. Awesome. So that you have the opportunity to think, okay, well, this is where my path's going in this direction, but I'm just going to like have a look at what's been happening here, and I can release the things that no longer align with me. So the full moon is a really beautiful opportunity to release what is no longer in alignment, so that you can move forward onto the path that's being illuminated before you. And then the new moon is the darkest phase of the moon cycle. And the new moon is a time where we go, it's dark. We can't see the moon. It's completely dark. It's when we can really retreat and go inwards. So it's a really beautiful time for self-reflection, for just resting, for really nourishing ourselves, and for really having that opportunity to slow down and create the space to think about what we do want to create. What do we want to set intentions for? What do we want to manifest and bring into our life? So the new moon is, that beautiful opportunity to set aside time for yourself, to journal, to think about the seeds you want to plant. It's not about taking action, but it's just about the contemplation and the reflection and thinking about what you want to, set an intention for to move forward.
And is that then, like journaling? Would you do like a journaling process through that?
So a new moon practice can be different for everyone, depending on, everyone's different. So it's whatever works for us. So it's really hard for me to give specific rituals, but I love to journal. It can be nice to sit in a bath. It can be really nice to just nourish yourself and do lots of beautiful self-care things. Journaling is something I really love to do. And it's really nice to have, something written down, because, our words carry such a beautiful frequency. So when we put them on paper, we're really sending out that message to the universe of what we want to create and bring into our lives.
Yeah. And it's nice to look back on as well, because then you can see, oh, cool, that did come to fruition, or like it's that providing the evidence that you're on the right path as well.
Yeah. And like, so when we do that with the new moon, 2 weeks later, we have a full moon, because it works in a cycle that way. So then at the full moon, you can look back on the intentions that you set for the new moon, and just, you've had that 2-week opportunity to kind of like set the intentions, go through, take some action steps, plant the seeds. And by the time the full moon rolls around, you can actually look and think, okay, 2 weeks ago, I wanted this. How is that working out for me? Is there anything I need to let go of so that I can keep moving on this path? And it's also, like you said, Shani, writing down and journaling at the new moon, you can reflect back. So it's nice to reflect back every 6 months and every 12 months on the intentions that we set. So it's just a beautiful cycle ongoing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And ritual's so important. Yeah. It's like creating those times to be with ourselves, to be with our desires, our goals, our dreams. Like, if we're not sitting down and getting really clear on that, it's like we can kind of lose track and lose direction. So yeah. And if we're sort of thinking, so the new moon is intention and manifestation, perhaps goal setting, if you're a little bit more that mindset. And then the full moon is the releasing, or the, illuminating and releasing.
It's the illuminating and releasing. Yeah. And the way that we work with them as well will differ for everyone, because, every month we have a new moon in whatever the cycle, whatever zodiac we're in. So for instance, if we're in Leo season, there'll be a new moon in Leo. And, the full moon is then the polarity sign of that. Cool. So if we're in Leo season, the full moon is going to be in Aquarius. So so it's nice to kind of like look where, and this is why it's really handy to know your own birth chart, because when we have a new moon in Leo, it's really nice to look to your own birth chart to see, okay, where does Leo fall in my birth chart? What house is Leo in? And then that's the area of life that you can work with when setting intentions.
Awesome.
Which is going to be really helpful to actually bringing things to life.
So I actually did my birth chart this morning, and it was quite fascinating. I think I went on Cafe Astrology or something like that. I'm sure there's so many better sites, but that was the first one that came up. I did also want to highlight, you post incredible stuff when it comes to full moon and new moon. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I think it's at Saucy Moo, is that right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, because you post all the new moon things and the themes that we should be working on. So that is a great place to start if you're sort of just starting out. So when it comes to birth charts, like, I know everyone always talks about it, but it kind of never really got my head around it. What is the sort of key elements that we need to be like understanding or knowing in order to help sort of create a deeper understanding of self?
Yeah, so it can be really confusing when you first look at a birth chart with all the symbols and all the different, like it's a circle. It looks like a wheel, and it's cut into segments like a piece of pie. So there's 12 segments because there's 12 zodiacs and there's 12 houses. Now, most people always know their sun sign, which is the sign you were born under. So for me, that's a Scorpio. For you, that's an Aquarius. But the key signs for most people is the sun sign. That's what they know. But it's also really important to know your rising sign, which is also known as the ascendant, and also your moon sign. So your ascendant, your rising sign, that is the sign that is all about the external self. It's how you appear to the outside world. Your sun sign is your core identity and the way you radiate light out into the world. And your moon sign is your emotions and your deep inner self. So they're the three main ones. But then we have every planet is in our birth chart.
Yeah.
And they can fall under any different zodiac, and in all the different houses. So it's really important because the houses represent areas of life, and it can get complicated, so I won't go into it in too much detail here.
Book a session with me. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a rabbit hole once you start. I've been working with astrology for years. I've been learning astrology, but once I was going to say I've been learning astrology for years, and I will always be learning astrology, because once you start, you don't stop. It is an endless black hole of information. And it's just, it's ongoing. It's like a language. It just, you might not believe in it. It's like, that's what I always think when people say astrology is not real. It's like, it is real.
Yeah.
If you say astrology is not real, it's like saying Spanish isn't real.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a language.
You don't understand it. So it is a language that needs to be understood, and it is complex. But there are some really beautiful, simple ways that you can work with it if you don't have, a lot of knowledge or a lot of depth. So knowing your sun, your rising, and your moon, that's what we call the big three. That's a really good way to get started with your astrology. Yeah.
And so when it comes to because we've got earth, fire, air, and water, and all of the signs sort of nestle into those four sort of categories. So say if someone's got a lot of fire in their chart or a lot of water, what does that sort of signify for those signs? Yeah,
so all the planets and all the zodiacs are all related to one of the elements: fire, air, earth, water. And so you may have, some people have an abundance of one particular element over another. Some people have a fairly even spread of elements. But for me personally, I have an abundance of water. So, for me, that means I am very sensitive. I have really deep flowing emotions. I have some psychic abilities. I have all of these elements of water that come out in all different ways of my personality, in the way I express and communicate, because my Mercury's in a water sign. My moon is in a water sign, so my emotions are really deep and flowy and watery. My Mars, which is the planet of action, is also in a water sign. So that's kind of how it works. If you've got a lot of planets in a fire sign, then you're going to have a lot of passion, and you might be quite fiery, and you can just be like, go, go, go. And, really just full of that fire, that just oomph to and that passion and drive in life. If you've got an abundance of earth signs, you might just be really grounded, really anchored, and, really sensual and really calming. And, so and someone with a lot of air will be really thoughtful. And that's, air is the element of thinking.
Is that what I think? I'm air. Am I air? Aquarius?
So Aquarius is air, yes.
Okay.
And then your rising is Capricorn, which is earth.
Okay, that probably makes a lot of sense.
And your moon is Aries, which is fire.
There you go. Bit of a balance. Me and my last house that I was in, we called it the tree house with the Sienna Sweeties. So there was 4 of us girls, and we were all earth, air, fire, water. We had this perfect quadrant of all the different signs, and it was the most beautifully balanced house. We all brought a different element. It was really funny to see that sort of play out in real life, and how we all sort of show up differently. So
that's beautiful.
It was so nice. So I think when you can take this information, and so, we're understanding this information, is there anything we need to do to apply it? I'm such a doing person, but what do we sort of do with the information once we know it?
So everyone will obviously apply it differently, because it depends on their astrology and how they work. But first of all, getting your chart and having a look at your chart is the best thing. You can do that through astro.com. I actually have a free astrology guide that is downloadable from my Instagram, and that's a really good foundational guide to astrology that will help someone navigate the basics of their birth chart. So people can download that. But in terms of getting started, it's things just knowing those big 3, especially knowing your rising sign, because whenever you see horoscopes on the internet, generally a horoscope is written from the point of view of your rising sign, but
Okay.
most people read it from the point of view of their sun sign.
Oh,
But
that's
it
a
is
good
actually, yeah, it's actually written from it. So for instance, I'm a Scorpio sun and a Taurus rising. So when I read any of the horoscopes, they both will resonate with me, but I always read for a Taurus.
Yeah. God, that's
Does
so
that
good.
make
I feel like I've
sense?
always been just
Yeah.
reading for Aquarius, but so Capricorn will be the
Yeah.
other one
So
I need to
you
read
would,
for.
yeah. So you
That's
would
cool.
read horoscopes for both Aquarius
Yeah.
and Capricorn, and it will probably make a lot more sense to you to do it that way.
Okay, I
So
love
that's
that.
that's just a really good basic starting point for someone
Mm,
who's just starting to get into astrology, is just to know their rising sign, know their sun sign, know
yeah.
their moon sign, and then to read horoscopes for even all three of those signs.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk about moon placements, because I have no idea what
Mhm.
this is, and you mentioned it in one of our chats prior to this convo. So yeah, what is it, and how do we use it? What do we do?
Yeah. So our moon placement represents our innermost self. So it's our emotions. It's where we find safety and security within ourselves, but also with others. So a lot of the time people won't identify or know us through our moon sign, because the traits of our moon sign are something that we might keep really internal and really close to our heart and really close to our chest, only revealing those characteristics or sides of our personality to our closest, almost dearest people. So maybe our family has seen parts of our moon placement, or our partner, because we really keep it close. It's you're only going to reveal the aspects of your moon sign to those that know you really well.
Yeah. Is it like a shadow sort of side, or it's more your just deeper aspects?
It's really more your deeper aspects, because there are other elements in the chart that will reflect like our shadow self and whatnot. But there are parts of our moon that can also reflect our shadow self, because every zodiac has, a higher expression and a lower expression.
Yeah,
For instance, I'm going to always refer to Scorpio because that's what I know best, because it's me. But it's like, for instance, Scorpios, can be really passionate and can be really loyal and can be just so, it can be really, really loving and overgiving in a really beautiful way.
Yeah.
But the lower expression of a Scorpio is that they can be really jealous. They can be, really manipulative. So every zodiac has a higher expression and a lower expression. So, and that happens with all of our planet placements. There's a higher expression and a lower expression. So especially with our moon reflecting our emotions, like you can really see the different sides of the higher expression and the lower expression. So the shadow would be the lower expression.
Yeah.
I guess the benefits of learning about your planet placements, and especially something about your moon, is that especially when dealing with your emotions, you can kind of look at the higher and the lower, and it will give you like a better understanding of yourself. So you can be like, okay, well, that's because I've got my moon placement in this. Maybe that's why I've been reactive to something in this way. So how can I kind of navigate and work with that energy to bring myself to a higher expression, and then, be able to deal with situations in a better way, or a more grounded way, or with less fire or with more fire, depending on what your moon placement is.
It just kind of helps with it's self-awareness and a high level of self-awareness. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So this is like my most favorite part that I get to speak to you about, but your COVID love story and meeting your partner through COVID, and like on the completely opposite sides of the world. And if you don't tell me it's like Outlander, having your own Jamie, I'd be very disappointed.
Oh my God, no, it totally is.
Oh my God, the accent, I just can't deal.
Yes. Oh my God, I can't deal. I can't deal.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years and I still can't deal with the accent. Yeah.
So good. So how did it happen?
So my partner is Scottish. He lives in Scotland. So he reached out to me. We just worked it out. It was just over 3 years ago, through my business, because he was going through some things and he really wanted some crystals and some essential oils, and he'd been recommended by a mutual friend. So he reached out to me and we had a chat, and I sent him some products, and we just got along quite well, and just as like a client, client business relationship. and he loved my products. And so we stayed in contact, and we just, send each other a message every now and then. And then it was in August 2020, I can't even remember which one of us it was. One of us reached out just through Instagram to say, hey, how you going? Just touching base to see where you're at. And we had a lot of mutual interests, like meditation and our spiritual journey. And we obviously both love crystals and breath work and all of those things. So we already had a lot in common. But then, we just started messaging this one day. And I actually kind of, as a joke, said to him, well, what's your sun, moon and rising?
Of course you did.
I did.
God. He was probably equally as into it anyway. So,
and he was like, oh, I'm not sure. So I sent him the details to look up his chart. He sent me his birth time. We looked it up and was just like, whoa, hang on. I don't really do a lot of birth chart synastry. It's not my speciality, but I know enough about it to be like, whoa. So, there's a lot of there's a like really good, strong match there. And it was just like, okay, so you're a Taurus sun, I'm a Taurus rising, he's a Scorpio rising, I'm a Scorpio sun. So we've got this beautiful polarity because those two signs are opposite each other on the axis. So we've got this amazing polarity. He's earth, I'm water, but he's water, I'm earth. And we kind of like can balance each other out. So we just started chatting about our astrology, and then one thing led to another. And we just started this beautiful, intimate relationship online.
So special.
And it just developed for 18 months. And because of COVID, neither of us could travel. So it was like 18 months of just building this deep, intimate, loving relationship, which was so beautiful and healing for both of us, because we'd both experienced toxic relationships in the past. And then, in February this year, I was able to fly over there, and we got to meet in person for the first time. After
that reel you posted, I'm like crying now because I'm like, it's so beautiful. But the reel that you posted of like you guys meeting and like your journey and the story, like I was just sitting behind my screen, just like crying, just looking at it. It was so beautiful. And I just think it's so important building that foundational friendship and getting to know one another first is just so powerful. And then it's like, the physical stuff and all the other stuff can come later, but just like, it's so special that you were able to have that story. And also, what a story to tell the grandkids as well,
I know. It was so special and so magical. And like you said, like relationships just don't happen like that anymore, where you have that time and that ability just to build a beautiful foundation. And so, when I got there and we had, actually the physical stuff, and it was just so incredible, and it was better than we could have expected. And I spent 4 months there, and I'm hoping to be back there in September, hopefully.
Oh my God. Fingers crossed for you.
I know. It's so good.
Well, I'm super happy for you, and it's just so nice to see you in love and glowing and just continuing to share your magic and your relationship.
Thank you, babe.
So I want to finish on what your offerings and your magic that you bring to the world. What have you got coming up?
So well, you can reach me through my Instagram. That's the best way to reach me, at Saucy Moo. But I offer birth chart readings. So if you are just starting out and you'd like to know more about your birth chart, you can reach out and book a birth chart reading. I also have some masterclasses available. I've got a masterclass that's on the phases of the moon. I do little mini guidance readings for the new moon and the full moon, which are just like 15 minutes to give you a personal in-depth guidance. And I also have like one-on-one mentoring immersions. So I've got a course, which is a 12-week one-on-one immersion about becoming, and it's a real deep dive into your astrology and the energetics around your emotions. And it's just such a beautiful transformational path.
So good. Well, thank you so much for your time and your smile.